Welcome back to the Intentional Parents Podcast. Today, Kirk Cameron on the show. You just heard an intro, so we'll give you an intro earlier, but I just asked the question and I stopped you because I was like, oh, we just got to capture this. This is not an unfamiliar space for you. Anybody that's listening is like, I know that name. Why do I know that name? You either know that name because you grew up watching him act or all the different things you've done. We'll talk about all that. But how long have you been in this world? You've been doing this for a long time.
Well, I've been on the earth for 55 years, but I've been in the acting entertainment world since I was about 9 years old.
9.
Since I was 9. Hey, could I just interject
Please.
A random ADD moment?
Yes, please.
When you just mentioned the name of your podcast, the intentional
Parents. Yeah.
I just thought, I'm like, it's like there's. I'm thinking of all of the unintentional parenting that has gone on out there, where people who are just thinking, hey, the next great thing to do in life, we got married, we're doing this, and now let's have a kid. That would be fun. Puppy was great, but a kid will be even better. And then they realize this is such an important and sacred responsibility. And I'm so glad you're calling it intentional parenting.
Yeah.
Because really, I think the family, and specifically parenting children, is God's primary instrument for advancing his kingdom on the earth. And we've got to be intentional with it. So way to go on the name of your show.
Thank you. Well, man, thank you. I know we align with this deeply. And let's talk about your background in a second. But before that, you're an actor, you're a producer, you're an author. You have a lot of stuff you're doing. But before all that, and you're a human and you're married, and I'd love to maybe just introduce us for anybody that doesn't know, introduce us to your family. And you have more kids than I do. So tell us, introduce us.
I'm crazier.
Yeah.
I think I watched the Brady Bunch too much. That's why we have 6 children. But I need Alice, the maid.
Oh.
And because we don't, Alice helped so much on that TV show.
She did.
Anyway, let's see. My wife and I have been married for 35 years. We have 6 grown children. So now they're 28, 27, 26, 25, 23, and 22. But when they were little, they were 6 kids, 7 and under. So it was double strollers, front pack, backpack, porta cribs, car seats, diapers. It was nuts.
Yes.
And now one of our children just had a child, and that makes us grandparents. So we're very excited about this stage of life that we're in.
Wow. How old is your grandchild?
Grandbaby is 6 months old.
So really new. This is all very new.
So new.
Okay.
Yeah. It was an amazing experience. My daughter, she came through the pregnancy like a champ. She had some complications, but great doctors. Everything was really great. And my biggest challenge was, I knew being a grandpa would be great, but I was really nervous about what my grandpa name was going to be.
Oh, dude, this is a very real thing.
Now, you probably haven't thought about this yet because your kids
not personally, but
yet.
I just recently, my parents have gone through it, obviously, and my wife's parents. But where did you guys?
Okay,
I'll
so
tell you. I'll give you
what's
some
your
advice.
dad? What is your dad?
Well, he ended up with grandpa and grandma. Like that was my side of the family.
Grandpa.
But Phil and Diane, who we also do this ministry with, they ended up being Amma and Pops. Amma's is like the German word for grandma, and then he's Pops. So that's where it landed, And again, it was because the grandkids kind of named it. But where have you guys?
Amma
and Pops. Yeah, write it down, dude. Okay.
So this is. I've got a driver's license of my grandfather right here, and he's Pop-Pop.
Pop-Pop.
He's gone on to be with the Lord, but he was at 17 years old. He joined the Navy in World War II, and he fought with the Marines on the island of Iwo Jima as a medic.
No way.
So Iwo Jima, with their, the iconic raising the flag, bloody battle, 17-year-old medic, and he was Pop-Pop. So I was really close to wanting to honor my Pop-Pop and say, hey, I'm going to be Pop-Pop. But I don't know, it just didn't feel right. And I'm from California, so Grandpa, something like that would have been appropriate. But now I live in Tennessee, and everyone here's got these weird grandpa names like Peepaw, Pawpaw, Papaw. And I just wasn't ready to go full Cracker Barrel yet.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I'm not into them.
And then I have a friend who said, well, my dad has the grandkids call him Chief.
Oh,
and I was like, bro.
I was like, our ego's going to love that one.
I'm like, I like the ring of that. That's got a nice sound. And so my wife is Coco. That's what she's Grandma Coco.
That is
and
cute.
I'm Chief. So Coco and Chief. Doesn't that sound good?
It actually really does. And I would absolutely, if I hadn't heard that, be very inclined to take it. I got time. So maybe by the time I'm a grandfather, so
I know another guy who has the grandkids call him Boss. But that's just a little
too much.
a little big dog for me.
I think the Chief,
like,
though,
Chief's kind of.
Yeah, even generationally, like there is a generational beautiful gift about like there's a matriarch, the patriarch. That's a real thing. You guys have this family. So
hey, Chief,
Coco is
Chief, look what I made, Chief.
Yeah.
Let's go fishing, Chief. Come on, it's gonna be.
They can't even talk yet.
Once she starts talking, I hope it sticks.
Yeah,
because sometimes they make up their own name, like they're like Bum Bum. Or
but are
like
your
that.
kids already calling it like, oh, go say hi to Chief? Like, are they doing that already?
They're starting.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, so you're gold. You're golden. My dad suggested very quickly. We shot him down immediately. He said maybe because he was struggling with the same thing. He's like, maybe just call me like G instead of like. Or GF for grandfather, and we're like, we're not calling you GF, dude. Like that is the weirdest. We're not doing that.
You call him the OG. Just call him OG.
OG,
like
yeah.
Old Gramps.
Well, it's hard when guys so my dad was younger when he became a grandparent as well, and so I think it's hard when guys are younger in their journey and they're like, wait, I don't have the identity of a grandfather. Yes, old. Like you think, Alex is in the studio with us. He's, there's some grandfathers.
Yeah, Alex, we got to stick together. This is the best stage ever, right? Yeah. I mean, we got wisdom. That's what the white hair is all about.
Yeah. He doesn't have any white hair. It's frustrating. No, he doesn't. But that said, no, I think thank you for going on that journey. But, you started so long, 9 years old, you started in acting. I love that you are taking what God's given you. And I want to talk about this journey, but taking what God's given you to help people grow in their faith, to understand Jesus in a deep way. It's what you're about. If anybody knows what you're about, they know that you're about that. But I'd love to hear how give me the story of how this started. How did you fall into this world of being on the very famous show? I remember watching Growing Pains growing up. So, I mean, I remember so many different moments. I mean, I was younger, but I remember these different moments of Growing Pains. But I think I'm not alone that a lot of folks watched that show growing up in a deep way. So tell us.
Well, what I'm going to bet is that you actually grew up watching more episodes of my sister's TV show Full House than you did of my show.
Do you guys have competitions over that?
No, but it's funny because people will come up to me and they'll be like, "Hey, it's really great that you're here, but did you bring your sister Candace? Because I watch Full House all the time."
Oh, got it.
And sometimes people will even say, to their kids, "Hey, honey, when I was a little kid, this was like the Justin Bieber of when I was a kid, and I used to have a poster on the wall.
Oh, of course,
and,
dude.
All that's a Teen Bop, Teen Beat, centerfolds, all that." And the kids are just glazed over, they couldn't
I don't
care less.
care.
And then she's like, "His sister is DJ on Full House," and their eyes light up.
Well, because Full House had a whole resurgence, right? Yeah, and then they want to Well, Full House had a resurgence, so I mean that's a little bit fair. They tried to redo some,
but to answer your question, when I was 9 years old, I was just a kid living in an apartment building, and my mom's friend had a son who was on a show called 8 is Enough. And this is a family show back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And Dick Van Patten and some others. And she was like, you ought to take your kids down to this agent and see if they could get represented by this agency who will put them in commercials and TV shows. So my mom did. And me and one of my other sisters got signed, and I started working as a child actor, 9, 10 years old, doing McDonald's commercials, 409 Cleaner, Fruit Loops, Fruit Roll-Ups, stuff like that.
I know all those names. Yeah.
And then when I was 14, I landed this little role on a TV show called Growing Pains. So I became Mike Seaver, the hormone with feet, the wisecracking teenager who was making everybody laugh and making his parents crazy. And that show lasted for about seven years, and it was a big deal.
It was a big deal
in the 1980s. And then, interestingly, right in the middle of that, my littlest sister Candace, she also started in acting, and then she got on a show, which also turned out to be a big hit show. So, super rare, very unique upbringing, but it kind of served as a launching pad for the things that we're doing now, and I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah. Well, okay, let me stop you right there because I'm just thinking, you have three of you kids in the family.
There's me and 3 little sisters.
Okay,
Candace is the baby.
Candace is the baby, and then So what was that like growing up for your your other siblings, your parents, like, because that world was probably very demanding of you in a sense, like you're working at 14, right? Like there's, but what was that like growing? Was it pretty normal? What kind of home was that like when you guys grew up?
Well, my dad was a school teacher his whole life, so he's teaching math and PE.
Okay.
Junior high school teacher, and so that was awesome. So I was always really good at math because I had a math teacher at home to help me with my homework.
Yeah.
And PE. My mom, she stayed home and raised us, and then she kind of helped me and Candace like managing, us going to Warner Brothers and ABC Studios on these shows. So it was different than most kids' upbringing for sure, but it was our normal.
Okay.
And then the big change for me was when I went from atheism to Christianity. That was a big, huge shift for me.
Yeah.
And that was weird. That was strange. That wasn't in my
Did you guys
wheelhouse.
grow up in a Christian home?
No, we didn't go to church. So wasn't raised in a Christian family. And it wasn't until halfway into Growing Pains, where the show was a big hit, and I wasn't looking for religion or God. I was just looking for a cute girl. And I met this cute girl on the set who I asked out on a date, and she said, "Yeah, meet me on Sunday at my church." And I about panicked.
Are you
right?
kidding? This is a great story. Keep going. I don't know this story.
Well, oh my goodness! Like she's going to know that I've never even been to church. Not only that, I think all these people are crazy. Right? They're believing in like the invisible flying, cloud monster. Who's watching up in the sky. And I also thought, but I'm an actor. I could fake this whole thing. Right? There's plenty of religious people who are faking it out there.
Dude, that's
Why not
good.
me?
That's good.
So I went to church, and I heard a message that grabbed a hold of me, and it spoke to my conscience and my intellect, and it wouldn't let me go. And I didn't know the pastor's name at the time.
Okay.
But his name is Chuck Swindoll. Chuck Swindoll is a pillar of pastors. He's a pastor's pastor, right? He's probably like 80 now. And
Alex, who's in the room with us, worked with him for 5 years.
Okay.
5 years. So
he's the
he
man.
knows.
Chuck
he knows.
Swindoll.
Yep.
And he was the pastor who preached a message, and he was intelligent, articulate, and left me with all these questions. And this girl's father did a great job answering my hard questions, and he gave me a little book called More Than a Carpenter by Josh McDowell.
Yeah.
And I read that, and then more things like Evidence That Demands a Verdict. And I was a history and science guy, a math guy. So I wanted proof and facts and evidence.
Yep.
I wasn't into the touchy-feely, kind of sort of creative, artistic zone.
Okay.
And I became convinced that maybe I didn't know everything, and that the universe didn't just pop into existence out of nothing for no reason, and that if this pastor and others like Albert Einstein, who was not an atheist but a believer in God, were correct, then I needed to rethink some things. And that's when I began my journey of asking God to show me the truth and change my heart.
Wow. So a question with that, the girl that invited you to church is now Coco. Am I understanding that right?
No, it's not Coco.
It's not Coco?
No, it's not Coco.
I didn't know that.
No.
So it's a different person. Keep going. Sorry. Let's undo that. I didn't know did you guys meet, you and your wife?
No, we don't have to undo it. It's all part of this really great story.
Yeah,
so
tell me.
The girl that I met was one of 3 identical triplets on Growing Pains who were cheerleaders at Dewey High School.
No way.
So I had the dilemma of trying to decide which of the 3 identical triplets to ask out on a date. And there weren't many differentiators.
What a hard life you had. That's weird.
So I only knew them for like a couple of days.
Yeah.
And so I was, it wasn't eeny, meeny, miny, mo, but just, she was just really sweet and really cute. And I thought, well, I hope I'm picking, door number 1, 2, or 3. And what a sweet family. And the whole family was great. And they were so kind to take me to church and answer my questions. And that led me to coming to Christ.
Wow.
Chelsea, however, I met 2 years later.
Okay.
After the girl who led me to the Lord and I broke up. And Chelsea played my girlfriend on Growing Pains. And that's what began the off-screen romance.
Wow.
That led to our marriage.
Wow. How old were you guys when you got married?
I was 20 years old when I got married.
Wow. How old was she?
And so Chelsea's a few years older than me, and we've now been married for 35 years.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's been awesome. And we had about 6 years without kids before we started our family, and we adopted our first 4 children. So we adopted Jack and Bella and Anna and Luke, and then we had an unintentional pregnancy.
Wow.
We became unintentional parents.
Yes, that's
rather than intentional.
Yeah.
This time it was unintentional with Olivia, and then it happened again, and so now we have 6 kids.
Wow. That is a beautiful story.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you've grown up and you found yourself in this world of a successful show, obviously, like you've said, you're thankful for the opportunity. Now that it's shifted into all sorts of things, right? All sorts of opportunities. Maybe just give some people some of the framework for the last. I mean, because that ended in. How old were you when that ended?
Oh boy, I was 21, I think, when that ended.
So yeah,
that's like.
That's a while ago.
Well, yeah.
So, but from that time, that's obviously not the only thing that you've done. A lot of other things. So give us just a little framework, some of the other fun things that you've been passionate about.
For Christians who may remember the Left Behind books, there was like 12 or 13 of those. Those sold millions and millions and millions of copies. We turned those into movies. So I was Buck Williams in the Left Behind movies.
Yeah.
Not the greatest movies in the world, personally speaking, in my humble opinion. But after that, I was in a movie called Fireproof, and Fireproof is a movie about marriage.
Yeah.
And the tagline is "Never leave your partner, especially in a fire." And that was made by the same guys who made War Room, who made Courageous, who made their latest film is called The Forge.
Yeah.
They're the Kendrick brothers. They make these really, really good movies.
Yeah.
And then I've gone on to continue making a lot of documentaries about the founding of the United States of America and our countries, our forefathers and mothers who were products of the Reformation. They were biblicists, and they understood the idea of a Christian republic contra communism, Marxism, socialism, and all of that. And movies and documentaries about the homeschooling movement in America.
Yeah.
As well as some talk shows that I host today.
Yeah.
One is called Takeaways on Monday nights, and then some YouTube shows as well. So it's just kind of a variety of things.
Yes.
And that's what you have to do when you're an actor, artist, creative, right?
Yeah.
Like you wait tables in between all your gigs, and then you're always in between jobs.
Yeah.
And so you never know how the meals are going to get to the table and the bills to get paid from year to year.
Yeah,
so it's exciting because you're not working a 9 to 5, and under somebody's thumb, but it's also nerve-wracking because you never know exactly what doors are going to open and which ones are going to close.
Do you do well with that?
I ask my wife.
I was just going to say,
she may give you a different answer. I do thrive on it because you have to survive.
There's like a certain pressure. Yeah.
But I do appreciate a calm and a stable season when you're not in the middle of the storm.
Yeah. Does your wife do okay with it? Is she fine with it, or is she like?
Yeah, she's cool. She rolls with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been so much a part of your life, both of yours, in the sense of since you've established your family.
We grew up on a TV show together, so she understands that, and she's fully committed at home with the kids, which I'm so grateful for. I mean, that is her ministry and her passion and everything. And I'm grateful that I get to have the freedom to be able to work on projects that align with the passions of our life together, marriage, parenting, church, and the broader culture.
Yeah. I want to talk about culture in a second, but one of the reasons we're here to talk is also, obviously, you recently wrote a book, which is Born to be Brave, and that came out a year ago?
No, it actually just came out in October.
October, I apologize.
So it was last year, but only about 6 months ago.
But that's not the only thing you're doing, because right now what we want to talk about is Iggy and Mr. Kirk, which is kind of a funny meaning, like people going like, wait, Iggy and Mr. Kirk, what is that? Is that a movie? It's a kids' TV show, and it's something that I'm sure you've been developing for a bit. But I want to hear specifically where this came from. Where did it come from? This idea, this passion to specifically jump into kids programming and helping kids understand these deep lessons of faith.
Well, as we talked about just a minute ago, I was on a kids' TV show. It was a family show, and it was at a time where the moral compass was pointing pretty true north when it comes to values.
You're right.
It wasn't wonky, confusing, twisted, perverted, and toxic like so many shows are today, and there's so many of them. What does a parent turn to in terms of a brand that they can trust, or programming that's going to be helpful, not harmful? And it's really hard today with social media and everything else. And so now that I not only have kids but a grandchild, I've got a lot of skin in the game, and I want to be part of the solution by providing healthy alternatives to things that are not great. So, while Disney may be like off the rails over here, or Scholastic Books, which used to be this company providing all these great wholesome storybooks for kids, maybe like they're off in the stratosphere somewhere, and I can give you examples of that if you're interested in it. I want to say, you know what? Let's just stop complaining about what is crooked, and let's hold up the straight stick of what is true and beautiful and good, and pray that families will be attracted to it. So now I'm writing children's books and making a kids' TV show called Iggy and Mr. Kirk, and essentially it's wholesome, it's fun, kids love it, and it teaches them clear moral lessons. It ignites their imagination on fire, and parents can trust it.
Yes.
So think of a modern-day Mr. Rogers neighborhood meets Sesame Street, but it's faith-filled, and it's relatable to issues that 5-year-olds experience today.
Where did this idea come from? Like, for you, was it the passion of just, you're saying this is part of your life now, but as you have had this come into this, like, did it come from a place for you of just wanting to speak, having an alternative for the broader culture, like you said? Is that the primary space, or was there anything deeper there?
Being a father and a grandfather was the gasoline on the fire. That gives me a lot of passion to want to really do this and do it well. But the idea, the concept really came from a company called Brave Books. Brave Books was started by an eye doctor, an ophthalmologist, whose daughter was being sent home with these really nasty books teaching his daughter stuff that he did not agree with. And so he began to write books for his daughter, and then start a book writing company. And that has turned into a subscription service for parents who want pro-God, pro-American, traditional family value books for their kids. And I started writing books with him and then reading those books in public libraries. And do you know, my books are about faith, hope, and love.
Okay.
And the fruit of the Spirit.
Okay.
Kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. And I was denied by over 50 woke public libraries that had previously held drag queen story hours in those libraries for children.
Whoa.
And the reason they denied me was because they said, our values don't align, and we are not interested in your messaging. And when I'd ask, well, what value don't you align with? Are you not interested in love or kindness or compassion or telling the truth? And they just basically said no. And when we pushed back and went anyway, thousands of parents showed up, and they're saying, we want the values that are going to lead to our kids' blessing and protection. And everyone thinks that here in New York or in Los Angeles or San Francisco or in Seattle or in Atlanta, that we're this postmodern culture, we're this progressive culture that wants nothing to do with traditional biblical American constitutional values, and that's not true. And they start singing God Bless America, and they start praying. It's like these little mini revivals breaking out in public library lobbies. It's such a beautiful thing that we said, let's bring the books to life in a creative way through a kids' TV show. And we'll do it in the nostalgic vibe of Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do. And we've got 20 episodes of classic TV with traditional values that parents can trust.
Now, where is this going to be? Because I mean, now with TV changing so much, where can people actually watch this stuff?
So we tried to find the right streaming platform.
Of course.
And the problem with streaming platforms is that you can put your show there, but kids are going to kind of hang out and spend some time there, and you don't know if the show after your show is going to be good for them, and the show before yours is good for them. And so as parents, if you're going to leave your kids somewhere, you better really know that the whole thing is good, right? And
yes.
What we decided to do was basically say, well, let's just create our own streaming platform. So Brave Plus is the name of a brand new streaming platform.
Oh, it's a new
that has been vetted by parents for kids. So if anything's overstimulating, if anything is inappropriate, if it's not in alignment with biblical values, it doesn't make the cut. And only 1 out of 20 shows actually gets through the grid. And we have 50 classic TV shows that have stood the test of time for kids to watch, like Bob the Builder, Strawberry Shortcake, Iggy and Mr. Kirk, and a whole bunch of others. And you can go there, braveplus.com, and see it. You can also go to the YouTube channel and see the first 5 episodes for free.
Oh, cool.
Otherwise, it's a subscription for like $4.99 a month. And you can also, if you're part of their Book of the Month club, you get all of the episodes forever for free.
Oh, cool. Okay, so this is very helpful. We'll have all those links in the show notes for people to check out.
Brave Plus is the place to go.
That's so cool. I didn't know that detail. Thank you for sharing that. I was wondering, because there's so many different opportunities now, and cable's so different. And now, not to pivot too hard, but I also, all of this intertwines in a deep way. I'm thinking, you've been married, you said 35 years. Mm-hmm. You have 6 kids. You have a grandchild. And because of your upbringing, or rather, the world that you grew up in, being online and all of not online, but rather TV, I'm just so curious, man. What are some of the things that you have learned, you and your wife have learned? Intentional parenting really starts with having an intentional marriage. But I'd be curious for you guys. What are some of the practices, rituals, things that you guys do to stay connected, to stay healthy? 35 years is just, that's amazing for any human alive. With the complexities of your life, with the complexities of 4 adopted kids, 2 biological, 6 kids in total. What are some of the things that you guys try to practice and do that keep you connected, keep you continuing to be in the space of loving well?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first, I want to kind of set the stage and contextualize this question and answer with what I think marriage really is.
Yes.
And what I think marriage really is a school that you enrolled yourself in to learn how to die to yourself.
Yes, Kirk, preach, yes.
Because if you don't understand that when you go into it and you think it's wow, you're really cute, and you think I'm the stuff.
You're like, I am
we're
Kirk
having
Cameron.
A good time right now. Let's just keep this party going for 50 years.
Yeah.
And you keep doing what you're doing, and I'll try to keep doing what I'm doing. You're going to get smacked in the face with the reality that, wow, I'm a messed up guy in my head, in my heart. I've had some things go on in the past, choices and decisions that I make, things I'm not understanding, my own sin, my own selfishness. All this is wrapped up inside of me, and God is working on me, and He's working on you. And the more you live with me in this marriage, the more you're going to find out why Jesus had to die for me.
Yeah,
and it's a lot more reasons than you even know. And so if we go into this saying God's gonna change us through this relationship, and it's going to be refining, and that God is not a pandering God who's just going to give us everything we want. He's a perfecting God who's going to cause the impurities to come to the surface in our arguments or in our differences, so that we can repent of our sin and we can deal with the things that we've got to turn over to the Lord. And in doing that, we're actually becoming more and more the bride of Christ together for Jesus. Yeah. So I say all that to say, so then what are the practices so that we can love each other well? Well, I've got to keep that bigger, that bigger metaphor always in the front of my mind.
Yes.
This isn't a you make me happy contract.
Mm-hmm.
This is a die to self. Ask what's going to honor God, and how can I communicate to you what God is communicating to me through the death of his son. He didn't come to be served, but to serve. He values me not based on my performance, but simply because he's chosen to set his love upon me. And that changes me. So when I look at my spouse, it's not, well, what have you done for me lately? And I've got my needs too, and you need to do your 50% of the deal. No, it's, I need you to know that there's nothing that you could ever say, nothing you could ever do that's going to make me not love you. And I am here to serve you, not to have you serve me. And all my needs are taken care of by God. I want you to feel safe, and I want you to feel valued. Because that's the need of every human heart. And if I can start acting like Jesus toward my wife, then we have hope for a healthy, happy marriage.
Yes. Let me ask you this. So safe, you said safe. I love that you said that. And I want to drill down on that a little, because I think a lot of people say the word safe. And I would imagine your wife does feel safe, at least in a physical sense. Because I don't know if you're, maybe it's a physical sense, right, for some. But when you say make my wife feel safe, what do you mean by that? And how do we do that?
I'm glad you asked that, because I think as a young married man, I thought when I heard pastors say things like, a man is to be a prophet, priest, provider, and protector of his home. A prophet. I'm going to speak the truth. I'm a priest. I'm going to be praying for my family. I'm going to stand in the gap with God. A provider. I'm going to bring home the bacon. I'm going to make money. I'm going to pay the bills. She doesn't have to do that. And a protector. I'm going to make sure that she's safe. So what's that mean? Okay, we've got our guns or ammo, or we've got a security thing on the house, and we're going to try to live in a neighborhood where there's no crime. But you know what I discovered? A woman wants to feel emotionally safe. And that is such a deep need of her heart, that she's not going to be betrayed, that she's not going to be abandoned, that she is not going to be degraded and criticized and devalued for who she is. Because she knows she's not perfect. She wants someone to love her the way that God loves her. That's what Christ commanded all of us to do, men and women. Love one another as I've loved you. How did he love me? Based on my performance, or because I don't mess up? No, it's in spite of the fact that I mess up, not based on my performance, but based on his perfect performance. I receive the benefit. And so my wife wants to feel safe. And I have the honor of trying to model or represent Christ's loyalty and commitment and care to her as her husband. And that just goes against all the selfish tendencies that we have, or the what about me questions. But when we do that, and we just say, this is about coming to serve, and then entrusting ourselves to the one who promises to be our shepherd. You go down that road, bro, you got blessings coming. I've learned that if we focus on our rights in marriage, we'll promote a rebellion. But if we focus on our responsibility as given to us by God, now you're creating the conditions for a revival. And
those are 3 good R's, baby.
and it's true.
Yes, rights, not rights.
Responsibilities,
which leads to revival.
Leads to revival. Otherwise, you're going down the chute to a rebellion, and all of a sudden it's irreconcilable differences. It's I'm not married. I didn't marry the person I thought I did, but we're all works in progress, and no one's beyond the reach of the transforming power of God. We've just got to start with getting my own part right, because you're not the Holy Spirit, and you can't change your wife, you can't change your husband. Wow. You can't even change yourself. you're dead, blind, and lost without the help of God, and he can change you.
Yeah.
You just need to put yourself in that position of humility and say,
Yes.
oh, God, help me.
I have a lot of things that I'm like, not just want to say about feeling. Like that was a very, especially in the room or anybody here, that's a spirit-filled moment, man. Thank you for saying that.
Oh,
that is a very real thing that you just said. Not just real in the sense, I think it's a truth that people need to remember and hear, because it is the lie, I think, of our generation. You're an older brother in that sense to me, and you're a generation ahead and above. And so I'm looking up to guys like you and like, dude, I want to be in a space where I'm continuing to love my wife and family well in all the different stages. But there's a message that's strong throughout our culture currently of, and it's the lie, we know it is, but that marriage is for your happiness. And we know biblically it's actually for our holiness more than it's for our happiness. But the lie is that it is for our happiness. And I mean, I have it is sad how many friends I have that have gotten divorced 3 years after marriage because I was just not happy.
Yeah, I tried that. Didn't work.
It didn't work.
Can I jump in on this and say this? Think of when Jesus came for his bride. Here you have the Son of God, the Prince of the universe. The second member of the Trinity is coming to earth in the fullness of time, in fulfillment of all the prophecies, and his bride is waiting for him, and she crucifies him. I mean, when he came for her, she wasn't like running to him in slow motion, beautiful and pure, leaping into his arms.
Yes.
She praises him one day and says, Hosanna, Hosanna, save us. And then by Friday, crucify him, give us Barabbas. And it's for our sin as the bride of Christ that put him up on the cross. And so if you think about that, you can't go in, if you go into marriage thinking, like what you said, some of your buddies, like, man, this wasn't what it was cracked up to be. It's not what I thought. Yeah, you had a wrong idea of what marriage is. Marriage is about care and commitment. Yes. And then trusting God to take care of the consequences. And, how much of Jesus's bride's sin, okay, so let's just, for example, my sin, your sin, your sin, your sin. How much of our sin was Jesus's fault? Zero. Yeah. None of it. How much of our sin did he take responsibility for? All of it.
Yeah.
And none of it was his. So when guys are like, dude, that's her fault. That's on her. She does that. She does that. It's like, okay, all right, fair enough. She's a sinner just like you and everybody else. And by the way, you're not Jesus. You're not. You don't have a clean slate in this,
no way.
Right?
Yep,
you're still in the red.
Yep.
And you need help too. But you know what a man does who acts like Jesus? He wraps his arms all the way around his wife's sin and takes responsibility for it and says, honey, I love you. Let's go to the Father together.
Dude,
and let's walk down this road of healing and trust that God's going to bring us to the other side. Ooh. Like, that's what a man does.
Oh, Kurt, there's a lot there.
But that's hard to do. Now, it's easy to pontificate and say this stuff, right?
No.
It's a whole lot harder to do because, we're wrapped up in our heads and in our hearts with all sorts of reasons why it's difficult to do that. But with God's help, we can. That's why I say marriage is a school where we learn over time how to die to ourselves and love more like Jesus does.
I just have a strong sense that a lot of people that are hearing this right now need to hear this, that the right people are going to hear it at the right moment. But there's so much truth to what you're saying, because if you've been married for any length of time, you've collected some wounds. You've collected some pain. You've collected real moments that you can honestly, justifiably say in your own mind, I'm sure, she doesn't deserve it, or he doesn't deserve it. He's hurt me too many times. She's hurt me too many times.
Yeah, and could I also interject that, as we say that, there's never anything you could do to make me not love you, that should be our attitude. Now, there are exceptions. Yes, there are. If you are being physically abused, that's what 911 is for. That's what civil government and police is for, right? You don't need to sit there in a situation where you and your children are being abused and physically harmed.
Yes.
There are situations where Jesus speaks about divorce being not what God had intended. However, he talks about adultery, and he talks about other specifics. So in saying this, yes, we want to love each other unconditionally. We want to love like God loves. But I don't want people to take that so blanketly to say that there are no exceptions, and the exceptions are important as well.
Yeah, well, and agreed that I think you said that well, and I think it's understood. Obviously, there are moments where things like infidelity and abuse, and
all
even
of a sudden there's a red flag on the field. That's different.
Yeah. We're talking about we're talking about the ongoing down the middle stuff, but at the same time, I mean, even if everything is okay, it is still very challenging without the Spirit's help to love your wife.
Oh.
Or to love your husband.
I'm impossible to love without the Spirit's help. I've given my wife so many opportunities to perfect the art of forgiveness. It's amazing.
That's a good way to say it.
Yeah, she's amazing at that. I'm so grateful. I really did. I married an angel.
Wow. Thank you for going there. I know that's it's a tender spot in all of our lives, but I really appreciate you giving the analogies, the visual, it's our job to hold our wives' sin as well. And man, I really appreciate what you said about that's what it means to be a man. I think there's a lot of weird stuff going on right now with men, especially all the different messages that we as men here right now, our boys are growing up with. My kid's situation is similar to yours, where I have an oldest boy and then 3 girls. Okay. And so it's interesting. My son is 16 now, and he's in this new stage of life, and the messages he hears about manhood and what it means to be a man, it's just, it's so different than you and I growing up. But I'm saying all that to just simply say, I'd love to hear a couple of thoughts from you. We'll close out here, but I want to hear a couple thoughts from you of like, maybe just tease that out a little bit of what we were talking about. Like, here's what the world says maybe a man should look like, but here's biblically what we see men are called to right now, and believe the truth of the scriptures. I see the smirk on your face, so I'm obviously, you just go wherever you want with this. Yeah. You get free reign, man.
Well, women are dying for good men to show up, and they're wondering, where are they? Where did they all go? Where did the good men go? Now, there's a lot of girls who are really confused by this extreme toxic feminism that is trying to obliterate the genders or just demonize toxic masculinity. And the cure for anything that has been warped and deformed, whether it's feminism or whether it's sort of like this domineering, overly toxic, barbaric masculinity, is to go to the scriptures and to look at Jesus. And you say, so here's the prototype, here is the perfect man, and let's imitate him and what he does. And we know that he's gentle. We know that he is love personified. He's also the Lion of the tribe of Judah. And he engages in battle. Demons are terrified of him. So I found Jordan Peterson to be a really interesting and intriguing person. I'm not sure where he is in his faith.
I think he leaves it ambiguous on purpose.
Yeah, but he wears a blazer with this mosaic of stained glass window pictures of Jesus all over it, and he's commenting on the Gospels and the Exodus. And he said something very interesting in his book about masculinity in men. He said, with regard to like, what is a good man? What is it that makes a virtuous man? He said, a harmless man is not a good man. He said a good man is a very dangerous man who has that under voluntary control. And I thought about that. I was like, okay, wait a minute. So what he's saying is, we have a culture that wants to say, men are there's toxic masculinity. Don't be aggressive. Don't be competitive. Don't be about winning or about crushing and dominating anything. Instead, be passive, be gentle, be essentially harmless and weak. And Peterson goes on to say, that's not virtuous for a man. He says, weakness doesn't make for virtuousness. He said, weak men, are like rabbits. He's like, they might be cute and cuddly, but they can't do anything except get eaten. He's like, a virtuous man is power under control,
Yes.
who is actually a threat to evil. But he keeps that power contained, and he is voluntarily submitting to the power of God.
Yes.
To deploy it when it's necessary against the right target, to protect what is true and beautiful and good.
That's well said.
Like,
that's well said.
Like so the word there that I find in the scriptures is meekness.
Yep, there it is. Yep.
Not to be confused with weakness, and that's what we do is gentle Jesus, meek and mild. We think that's weak and soft-skinned and with lamb on his shoulders and holding children on his lap. No, meekness is actually a fruit of the Spirit, and the picture there is of like a Clydesdale-like war horse, powerful and strong, ready to charge into battle and do great damage against the enemy, but he is perfectly still and under the complete control of his rider. I mean, just one flinch and that horse is off and he's totally in tune. That's how we ought to be with God, is strong, courageous, full of hope and love and joy and peace, not fulfilling the lust of the flesh, and guided by divine wisdom. That's what I believe a man is to be.
Yes. I think, well, your definition is it's biblical. And that's a really good way to say it. I think, fatherhood pops in my mind like so much, because I think so many of our boys right now, growing up, they have a lot of dads that don't even know how to live in that themselves, because they, oftentimes we learn from what we have grown up in. And so I think it's an awesome, amazing opportunity to start being that.
And you know what, bro? Some of us didn't have dads to model that kind of biblical manhood for us. And so we struggle.
Yep.
And we're trying to figure it out. But we can also be the first link in a brand new chain with our own kids.
Yes.
And what starts out to be just like a little trickling stream of biblical manhood in our generation turns into a rushing river with our children's.
Yes.
Because they're looking at us, and we don't have to do it perfectly. All we have to make sure is that when we screw up, that they also see us repent, ask for forgiveness, and get back into the fight. Because that's what they're going to have to do too. It's not about having a perfect dad.
No.
I don't need a perfect dad, and my kids don't need a perfect dad. We already have the perfect father in heaven. What they need is an authentic man who's in the trenches, trying hard, and obeying God. Not perfectly, but increasingly and authentically.
I have found our conversation today refreshingly spirit-filled and balanced and beautiful, and could not be more happy with our conversation. And I just want to say thank you. Thanks for depositing your life into this moment. But this is obviously, this moment is now, but this has been the whole of your life. This is years upon years, days after days of walking with Jesus, consistently growing and passing it on. And the fruit's just really evident. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Well, thank you for being so kind to me. And it encourages me so much that you're doing this podcast about intentional parenting. I don't think that there's any other better strategy for transforming the world than intentional parenting. God gave kids to Adam and Eve. He didn't give them to a church. He didn't give them to a government.
Yes.
He gave them to parents to raise in their homes. And it's a simple strategy, but it's a comprehensive strategy. And that is model the good things yourself.
Yes.
If you want kids who love God and speak kindly to their spouse and forgive when they're wronged, just show them what it looks like. Do it yourself. Teach it to your kids when they get up in the morning, when they go to school, when they come home, and then make sure you're involved in your community and in electing people who represent those values in your government. And if you do that, you've got a shot at a really long and blessed future.
You do, man. And thank you for that perspective. I know it's probably surprising to you sometimes that you're in the stage of life that many of us look up to now. Your age and stage, you're at a stage where you're helping shape and give encouragement and wisdom to the next generations down. And so thank you for being somebody that we can look to that's like, dude, you're living it out.
Well, thanks. I forget. It's funny because more and more people are saying that to me. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I can see your face even when I said it.
I still feel like I'm 25, but I know I'm not.
But I already commented, you look great. For your age, you look amazing.
Dude, for a guy, for a geezer like you look amazing.
You don't look your age. When you walked in, I was like, bro, what is this diet plan? There's no way this is accidental. But no, man, I appreciate it, and your hunger for Jesus and desire to pass that on is so evident. And we'll put all the links in the show notes so you can find out all the fun projects you're working on. But just want to say thank you for stopping by the studio. Thank you for sitting with us, and let's do it again.
Thanks for a great conversation. Oh yes, please. I'd love to. Hey, if I'm in Oregon, I got to come to your studio there.
Yo, have you been to Bend, Oregon before?
I have been to Portland.
I'm sorry,
which was crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. There you go.
But I was in. So Bend is in the eastern part.
Yep.
And the drier part, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been through there, but I haven't spent much time.
We'll do some stuff. We'll connect. So
yeah.
Thanks for being on the show today.
All right. Thank you.